Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. It is Monday. That means it's time for another Alpha Flight issue, another review. Today, we have reached issue number 35, June of 1986, and we are graced with a cover showing Shaman fighting off skeletons that seem to be animated by his estranged daughter, Talisman. Up in the box, we got a good chunk of Alpha Flight, Vindicator, North Star, Aurora, Puck, Snowbird, and Box. Okay, and we got a new penciler in this issue. The child is father to the man. Bill Mantlo writer, introducing Canada's own David Ross as penciler, Jerry Taliok as inker, Jim Novak letterer, Bob Sharon colorist, Carl Potts editor, Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. As her torture intensifies, the Mer-Alphen known as Marrina utters an inaudible prayer that the pain inflicted upon her by her inquisitors kills her before she has to endure any more of the agony gnawing at her from within. So, last issue ended with the capture of Marrina by Attuma, Warlord of Atlantis, who has seized control of Atlantis from Namor, the Submariner. Through the translucent cell of her containment cage, Marrina hears a cruel voice bark orders in a low Atlantean dialect. The scuttlefish maintains her silence. Vary the chemicals. Moments later, the waters surrounding her are stained unnatural colors. She feels compelled to speak, to reveal secrets. And she would obey the compulsion if she knew any, or if she were still capable of rational speech. And you see, Marrina has taken on this monstrous appearance. And we'll see as we look into her past, she was once, very pretty, very cute, great big eyes, kind of looked like an anime character. And so Attuma looks on, and we kind of get a little bit of the past here, referencing Alpha Flight number 14 through 16, reviewed on this channel back in the day, where the Submariner and Marrina had this brief but passionate love affair. He wanted to make her his wife, and Atlantis did not go along with that. And ultimately, Attuma has seized power. And this is very troubling to Namor. And so again, she's being, she's basically being tortured to try to get information out of her, and also maybe to bring Namor to her rescue, which will bring him into the clutches of Attuma. So now we're going to flash to a continent away. A scarlet and ivory figure soars across the border between the state of Washington and the province of British Columbia. Whee, oh Puck, I never dreamed that flying could be so glorious. I appreciate your exuberance, Vindicator, but careful, eh? Your battlesuit is shielded, and I am not. Fly too high and you'll freeze me, or too fast and I'll fry. Then again, it's remarkable how quickly you've mastered the power once wielded by your late husband, Guardian. And it's ironic that Wolverine and I were foolish enough to think that you might require our protection against that fanatic lady, Deathstrike, when it was you who saved us, eh? Again, I'll come in on that one and say, it wasn't that foolish. And that was, you can watch my review of last issue. I wasn't real thrilled with it. I think they made some assumptions and did some things that were not really in character. And were a little bit off. So there you go. It happens. So I will say this though, Mac himself was not real comfortable as Guardian, as being, and I say as space Guardian, not as Guardian. You got to make that clear when you're doing Marvel comic reviews. But he was not that comfortable in that role himself, and didn't necessarily feel like it was, something he should be doing. He felt more like a scientist, and he kind of took up the mantle because Canada needed it. I don't blame you for not having any faith in me, Puck. When I was just plain Heather Hudson, I whined about not having any superpower. When Roger Box reinvented Mac's battlesuit and gave me power, I whined about needing training. Well, I'm glad she doesn't blame him, because that's exactly what she did, and exactly why he thought that. Well, I'm done whining. I've got everything I need now to be a true leader of Alpha Flight, and I'm ready to roll. And she is rolling in the sky, and it's making Puck mildly sick. And he's an acrobat. He can normally take that, but I could see where that'd be a little bit rough. And so now we're gonna hear Heather's thoughts. I've suspected Puck's affection for me ever since Mac died, but I'm not sure I want to lose my heart to anyone. Not now, when I know how people can be used by those who say they love them, as Mac used both Wolverine and I. Mac was head of Department H, Canada's superhero development group. He had a lot of prospects, but no single dramatic success. He needed a hit, so he made one, somehow acquiring notes on a secret process developed by a Japanese militarist for bonding the rare, invincible metal adamantium to human bone. Mac used it to turn a Canadian secret agent named Logan, without his consent, into Wolverine. And when his pain-crazed creation escaped, Mac lured his beast back with a vision of beauty, me, his blushing brand-new bride. That's what I suspect anyway. If true, I think I'll lay off relationships for a while. So, and again, that's something that last issue bugged me. Heather went to that suspicion really fast. And it was based on her seeing a folder like 10 years earlier, glancing at it for just a second and remembering the exact wording on the folder. That's a bit of a stretch for me. I think that could have been handled better, like her overhearing a conversation. But she goes to the suspicion so deeply and so powerfully, so fast, does not feel like good characterization to me on that one. So I'm gonna argue with Bill Mantlo on that particular point. Some strange ladies may flirt with a freak, eh? But why would any normal woman dream of loving a lousy little dwarf? And that is Puck's feelings about himself. And we saw a couple 3 issues ago that Puck is not, in fact, actually a dwarf. His body is shrunk because he contains this essentially evil spirit of this ancient wizard. And that's what compresses him into this form. So it's not a form he was born to or one that he likes. And so he's a little bit salty about it. So they get back to the Alphen Mansion and find Doug Thompson waiting there of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. How did you... Oh, my uniform. Elementary, my dear Thompson. He has brought Snowbird to the mansion. And Snowbird has changed. She's going through something horrible, and nobody here understands what that is. The man who could probably tell them and help them is Shaman. Shaman is not there. So she returns back to herself, and Heather talks to her. Well, I guess actually Snowbird talks first. Heather, is that you? Yes, Narya, I'm here. What's wrong with you? I hurt so dead inside. Only Shaman can help me. Well, does anyone know where Michael is? Narya and I were searching for him in a bad blizzard up north when the first spasm struck her, and we were forced to return. I fear he may be lost. So Shaman has gone off to try to regain his faith and confidence so he can once again perform magic. So he's kind of off on this vision quest, guided by the spirit of his grandfather. And we saw that last issue as well. She suddenly turns again, and you see her taking different forms. And Puck leaps to get her out of the way because he loves her and wants to protect her. And I'm sure he's probably going to get yelled at for it. So Aurora shoots her with a dart to knock her out, and it works. The bear, as it collapses, turns back into Snowbird, and Jean-Paul Northstar catches her. So where is Shaman? That's the big question at the moment. Well, here's Shaman. Now, Shaman is sort of, he's in a place of power. He's not necessarily, on our earthly plane exactly. It's a little something maybe different. The Canadian Barrens. It is, as naturalist and anthropologist Farley Mowat has described it, a mighty land and a strange one, As geological time is reckoned, it emerged only yesterday from under the weight of the glaciers, and today it remains almost as it was when the ponderous mountains of ice finished grinding their way over its face, a land planed to a shapeless uniformity by the great power of the ice, a hard yet harshly beautiful land, where a man may find his courage or his death. Dun, dun, dun. And that is from The People of the Deer by Farley Moen. And so Shaman is thinking here, these man-like stone cairns were raised by the Inuit people many centuries ago. They and my Sarsi ancestors were mortal foes. But the coming of the white man, I'm going to flatten that out, reduced both our tribes until there seemed little point in continuing our enmity. Isolated on our respective reservations, we are at peace. Thus I am sure the ghosts of the People of the Deer would not grudge me the use of their guideposts. As I journey forth on this pilgrimage of power, which the spirit of my grandfather states would lead me either to my destiny or my doom. And he sees coming at him, thundering across the plain, a herd of caribou. And he turns and he flees from them. And we're getting a little bit of the backstory here about why he's doing this and his problems with his daughter. Elizabeth, he comes to this cliff, he leaps over it. A leap that, of course, a normal person could possibly make. And yet, he must, and he just barely does, catching on to the cliff there. Adrenaline surging, muscles screaming, with the strain, Shaman does the impossible. I survive. But what of the caribou? The caribou vanish. Spirit deer. The ghost of my grandfather said that some spirits would appear to test me, others still to render me aid. I should have guessed that by the former he meant spirits of the land. Shaman senses the answer as soon as he conceives the question, when he has shown himself worthy. Mosquito spirits, but they draw real blood, and their incessant stinging threatens to drive me mad. Blinded by the swarm, Shaman's flight becomes a stumbling slide down a slope of skittering stones, sharp as knives that flay his moccasined feet. At the bottom of the slope, a lake. And so into the water, spirit fish, this giant mouth of this fish. And he swims in, oh no, he's swimming away from it, but it sort of captures him in his mouth. And he fights. Oh, for the strength of Sasquatch, that I might survive this test. But then the sweep of the current brings home to the desperate Sarsi that survival may depend more on cunning than raw physical power. Both the great fish and I are being borne along in an inexorable rush towards the falls, a deafening roar, a fearsome plunge. Silence. And when he cuts himself out of the fish, and obviously that does have some definite spiritual symbolism to it, he stands before these wolf spirits. Or are they real wolves? And as he says, does it matter? And they attack, and he fights them with this knife. And then he seeks shelter from a storm, a blizzard that comes. And he stumbles towards a strange hollow stone cairn. And inside the cairn, Elizabeth, my daughter, talisman, you here? Who better to test you, father, than the binder of spirits? Isn't that what you made me when you tricked me into becoming some sort of unwilling messiah? Alpha Flight number 19. There was no time, Elizabeth. The world was in danger. You already possessed the power to save it, but needed to don the tiara to bring it forth. You might have cared enough about me to explain the consequences, that the tiara, once put on, would never come off, and that I would never be human again. And she's got a point there, too. Ooh, the saga of the Hobgoblin explodes in 86, and explode it does. Elizabeth, I didn't know, and yet you pretended to be so sure of yourself when you promised to save Mother from death and me from the void. You failed us both, old man. Still, you have survived the spirit tests, so you must be good for something. Take these. And she throws to him this stick and this spanking new costume. The trappings of power, Michael, Twoyoungmen, needing only this eagle crest to complete your costume. Grandfather, you have found your courage again, grandson. You have done this ghost proud. Now all that remains is to assume your power. As I made Elizabeth do at the cost of humanity, what has power brought my family, grandfather, save heartache? And yet, without power, can I ever hope to save Elizabeth from the fate to which I condemned her? For the sake of Talisman's salvation, then, Shaman must live again. Whatever your reason for reassuming power, the world will benefit from your decision, as will your own people. The eagle crest and caribou robe you now wear are sacred relics, worn by generations of shamans, which were long ago stolen from our Sarsi ancestors. Stolen, grandfather? By whom? By Viking invaders who plundered our people and then fled to this cairn they'd raised over Sarsi graves. Winter slew them. Their cairn was lost. Our sacred symbols were never recovered. But now their power may be yours, grandson, if you survive your final test and avenge your ancestors. So we get a little Jason and the Argonauts action here as these skeletal Vikings rise from the ground. And we get to see Shaman using his abilities. And so he immediately reaches for the medicine pouch, but that's not there anymore. No, that was the old magic, drawn from the void, not from within me. But what was the power that 40 generations of Sarsi shamans called upon to defend their people? From the ceremonial helm, an eagle spirit soars. I am Eaglet, O Shaman, your familiar and intermediary between this realm and that of the spirits. Now the purpose of the spirit test becomes clear to me. I had lost touch with the spirits of the land, the true strength of my people. I cannot command their absolute obedience as Talisman does, but having gained their respect, I have earned the right to implore their aid. And so his staff glows. So basically what we're getting here is the reinvention of the Shaman character. In some ways, Dakota North, I got a couple issues of this, and I got to tell you, I really dig it, and it did not do well. But I like that book. I'm trying to find the rest of them. When I do, I'll maybe do a review of them. I think it was pretty cool. And so we get this battle between him and these spirits, these skeletons, these undead. And this is a chance to show how his magic is going to work from this point on. And he raises these stone men who smash the skeletons. No songs will be sung about Sarsi campfires of Shaman's triumph in the snows. No child of the people will ever know, but Shaman knows that he has recovered his pride and his power, and that is enough. Nope, is that it? Nope, there we go. Back to Mansion Alpha. Snowbird's transformations are out of control. We've got to contain her. Sweet mercy. How long? If only Shaman were here. Poof. Shaman is come. Now, fellow Alphans, stand aside and let me examine my patient. All right, so Shaman is back. I got to be honest, this is the costume I first saw him in. I like it way more than his old costume. Very cool. Probably kind of a pain in the butt for artists to have to draw, because you got a lot of little, not completely intricate, but slightly intricate stuff there. And remember, these are the days when, artists had to get moving on drawing these things. They didn't have all day. Oops. Interesting ad here, too. There's a madman on the loose, leaving behind him a trail of death, and only one man can stop him. Captain America. The hunt for Scourge. That was an interesting storyline. One I'm not super happy with, where basically a whole bunch of kind of B-list villains from Marvel's past were getting killed off by a character called Scourge. And the only reason I'm not super big on it is I hate to see characters wasted. Oh boy, Star Wars droids. How about that? 86. 3 years after Return of the Jedi. So, Alpha Flight 35. We get a bit of an update on the Marrina storyline. She is captured by Attuma, and he is torturing her. We get a little bit of a resolution to last issue's storyline with Heather, which I thought was frankly a little clumsy. I didn't like the telling. I don't like the way they made her so suspicious of her ex-husband so quickly on such slim evidence, well, really no evidence at all of his wrongdoing. So not a fan of that. What we mostly get is the reinvention of Shaman, him getting back in touch with his spiritual side, his power, and returning once again to Alpha Flight, after having gone through a few setbacks and some personal problems. And again, I like the new costume. I like what they're doing with the character here somewhat, and we'll see how that ultimately goes. And he's going to try to save Snowbird from whatever is happening to her, which is opening up future storylines as well. So what do you think, folks? Leave your thoughts on Alpha Flight number 35 in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you enjoyed this little review, if you're enjoying these readings, maybe think about giving it a like. Maybe think about subscribing and sharing with a friend. Until next time, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Try to have a little bit of fun. And I will hopefully see you soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.